Just briefly, just with the last WCW thing, did you get paid out for the rest of your contract when
I
WCW
did.
folded?
Yeah. What was her name? Diana Myers,
Yeah.
who was the lead counsel. Apparently, allegedly, the story that we'd always heard, and I'd heard it confirmed from quite a few people that were in the office at that time. She was angry that we knuckle dragging Neanderthals were making more money than she was. And my comment to that then and now is if you didn't like it, then there's nothing from stopping you to go join a wrestling school and learn it and come on up. And you might have a little different respect for the wrestlers at that point. I can count all the way to 20, but you have to let me take my shoes off first, but I can do it. It's infuriating to me. I mean, you heard me, a few episodes ago talking about Terry Funk, and I hope the respect from me to Terry Funk and the love came through in that episode because he was brilliant at what he did. Hey, he didn't create the internet or cell phones or cured cancer, but boy, he entertained thousands, hundreds of millions of fans for decades. And there's something to that. I mean, the world needs, actors and comedians and all the rest to allow us to forget about that Twilight Zone out there for a little bit. So the fact that she would have this condescending, how dare you make more money than me with a law degree? Well, I was accepted to medical school and I stayed in wrestling. You know why? Because I love wrestling more. I loved medicine, but I loved wrestling more. And that was my decision. I can hardly say, well, damn, the doctor shouldn't be able to make that much more money than me. I had every right to be a doctor if I wanted to be a doctor. And so she played hardball for about a month where I'll date myself. I had a fax machine in my office and I got faxed over a release form and she's telling me I have to sign this. I said, well, remind me where I requested this, Diana, and remind me why I have to sign anything. And last I checked, my lawyer tells me yes or no. That's, where my decision comes from. And they try to play hardball. Well, then we're going to this and we're going to that. And about a month in, I was on a conference call. My lawyer, Eric Weissenberger, who's now a judge in Norwalk, Ohio. He did all my legal work for me. And we had been friends since 1982. So he was well aware of my career and, my accomplishments and my failures and all of it. He knew all of it. And so he had a conference call with Diana, but he didn't tell her it was a conference call. He said, I don't want you to say anything. You just listen. And so he called her and he said to her, I've looked it over and the contract is clear. If you have something in writing that my client requested this, I'd like to see it. But barring that, if you don't start paying him by Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever the day the checks went out, he said, we're going to assume that you're in breach of contract and be filing a lawsuit in federal court. There was about a 12-hour period, and then I got something, again, through the fax machine coming through that my checks were resuming that week. And I got paid, I think it was a little more than 2 years, which was fantastic at the time. Truth be known, I much would rather work for that paycheck. And the week that WCW got sold, I might be a point or two off, but it was something like Vince did like a 7.9 or an 8 point, like in that range. And we did a 5.6, I believe was the rating. So the head-to-head ratings, yeah, they were beating us, but we were still drawing a pretty large crowd. By today's standards, a massive crowd. And even at that time, for other than wrestling, there were very few things on cable that were garnering 5, 6, 7, 8s in the ratings. So when I checked on this like 4 or 5 years ago, in that same time slot, TNT had the best rating they had done was a 1.3, and they had averaged like a 0.6 or something, like some minuscule number. So clearly, in hindsight, this was a boneheaded move, so much so that it actually elicited a response from Ted Turner. Jamie Kellner, who was running WCW and Time Warner at the time, was having his first board meeting. And the meeting starts and the doors open, and in walks Ted Turner, who has just sold this to Time Warner. So there's an exalted guy in this office building, right? So everybody jumps up and, hey, it's Ted Turner. Nice to see Ted here. And Jamie Kellner, of course, is gushing, right? Hey, Ted Turner's coming to see me take over the company. He walks up with his hand extended to shake hands with Ted Turner, and Ted puts his finger in his face and says, "You ever get rid of another piece of this company that I personally brought to it, I'll personally see you don't work in this industry again." And turned and walked out. Boneheaded move for the network, boneheaded move for Time Warner. And you know, I would suggest that being at a 5.6 hardly meant that we were on our knees and out of the game, like we were out of ideas. We had a very talented locker room. Again, the MBA courses being taught on how not to run a company. If they would have just done the right thing. And this is like, again, I can't even point the finger at any one person and say this person this or this person that. There was just so much confusion. You know, you get to the TV taping, and all week you'd been talking to people on the phone saying, okay, you're going to have a match this week with James. You have 10 minutes and, you know, you up. Okay, good. So I'm coming up with ideas. And I'd get there and I'd see Shane Douglas versus Taz, or whoever. I was plugging a name in there. Oh, wait, I thought it was James. Oh, it was, but, and then you see like Kevin Nash come in at times, need to race, just sort of glance at the board and erase matches off and then write other matches in. And there was this feeling that like, who's in charge? Like, is Kevin in charge? Is Kevin Sullivan in charge? Is Vince Russo in charge? Is Bischoff in charge? Is anybody in charge? And it really just became, you know, the dog circling to grab his own tail. And no company can succeed like that. But the 5.6, had anybody stepped in, if Jamie Kennedy stepped in and said, okay, WCW, enough of the bullshit, get this fixed, get it in a direction, get it okayed and do it. That would take leadership. And it's just a whole lot easier to sell it for pennies on the dollar.